We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Friday. As you can see, I'm back home in Minnesota, back from Savannah, Georgia. But guess what? Sunday, I'm going back to Savannah, Georgia through Wednesday. Got some more stuff we've got to deal with down there, and we're headed back. Then on the 24th, we're going to Los Angeles. And then on November 7th, I'm going to Washington, D.C. right after Donald Trump gets his ass kicked, and I'm going to give a talk to some court reporters. So I'm doing a lot of traveling over the next month or so. I like traveling, so this is a good thing. And I always enjoy going to Savannah. Even if we just got back, we are going back Sunday, and we'll do some more podcasts and TikToks from Georgia between Sunday and Wednesday. But we got stuff to talk about today. It's the middle of the week or the end of the week, actually. And we've had plenty of things going on, not least of which was Hurricane Milton. That was a terrifying couple of days. I was concerned being in South Georgia that we might get some of the overspray, if you will. We got a little rain, but nothing really that much. Now I'm hearing about another one coming, and I'm going back to Savannah. So put it this way. I don't feel too sorry for myself when I think of the things that people went through in Florida and Georgia and North Carolina. Very tough situations down there, very tragic situations. And for those Republicans, including Donald Trump and all the other dumb fucks saying that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are doing nothing, that FEMA's doing nothing, it's all categorically a lie. This is what Donald Trump does. Why is Donald Trump doing this, even though everybody knows it's a lie? I mean, Republicans are even saying, dude, stop with this shit. Just stop. Why is he doing it? Well, because he's got nothing else. He was initially claiming problems at the border, but then all Kamala has to do is say, yeah, but we had a bipartisan border bill, the most stringent in history, and Donald Trump told him to shut it down. So they're not talking about the border quite as much. And then they spoke about the economy. Oh, the economy's horrible, and that inflation, it's going crazy. Well, when Joe Biden started out, inflation was at 7%, but we were coming out of a pandemic. Here we are, short of 4 years later, and it was announced yesterday that inflation was at 2.4%, the lowest point since 2021. So they've got nothing else to crow about, nothing else to bitch about. So, in spite of the fact that everything they say about Joe Biden not doing anything for the people that are the victims of these hurricanes, in spite of the fact everybody knows that's not true, including Republicans, that's all they got. So they just keep doubling down and tripling down and doing what the fuck they do. It's crazy. Well, as you might guess, we've had a few guests and we've had some lives. So we've got a lot of emails to read, and let's get to those. First one says, Dear Mike, not sure if you heard about the new AI offering, which can create podcasts with two AI generated characters discussing subjects and points entered by the app user. Clearly, this is not a threat to your podcast, but it would certainly clutter the podcast world. I bet you will have a field day discussing this potential development with one or more of your regular guests. Don't worry, your loyal listeners like me will track you down and find your new episodes wherever they can be accessed and remain loyal listeners. But this I think, may turn into the eggplant that ate Chicago. Chris from London. Yeah, I'm not all that worried about AI. Anything that I've come across, it's been pretty clear it's AI. It's not quite there yet as far as being believable, at least for me. Maybe my eye's more critical than some folks. The idea of AI coming up with two hosts and them carrying on an AI podcast doesn't sound very interesting to me, honestly. I kind of went through this, when I was first doing traffic reporting. And a lot of the engineers thought the more efficient, the less expensive way would be to use kind of a generated voice to give traffic reports. And a couple of places tried it, didn't work out very well. But my traffic reports, when I was giving the information, um, did very well, and people trusted them, and it worked out fine. And they couldn't understand why that would be. Well, we're all people. People like to relate to people. People don't trust machines. They don't trust AI. They don't trust voice generation. They trust people. Now, when you're in a position of broadcasting, whether it be traffic or whatever, you've got to build that trust. You've got to have a history of some success in giving them good information. And once you've done that, they become you become their guy. It was often kind of weird because, I would do traffic reports every 10 minutes, 6 to 9 a.m. and 3:30 to 7 p.m. I was there every day for a long time for these people, and they come to know me and trust me. And then when you come in with a generated voice, they didn't trust it because there was nobody behind it. And that's where I think AI falls down, especially in podcast. If you want to produce something for radio that's just a generic type of thing, it might work there. But the reason people are going away from radio and coming to podcast is because this is a more intimate setting. This is a more personal, more casual setting. By turning it into AI, it just kind of makes it a manufactured thing, and people will understand that. Whether their voices sound perfect and whether their inflection is right, there is no soul to it. And people sense that. You need some soul to it. You need some um, naturalness to it. And AI, as far as I've heard, has not been able to come up with it. So, no, I'm not afraid of AI. I don't care. I'm 64 years old. I'll do this as long as I can. And then when I can't, I won't. It's not a big deal. I've already gone farther than I thought I would. So anything after this is just fucking frosting on the cake. Thanks, Chris from London. Hi, Mike. 2 points. First, during the lead in for your Not a podcast, you ask if it's valuable to us. I'm one of those who cannot use TikTok due to its addictive nature. Your content informs and help make sense of some pretty messed up stuff. I find the delivery and value of your show on par with the traditional outlets like BBC, NPR, CBC. Not bad for an old guy in his living room. Not always in my living room, sometimes in a parking lot, sometimes in my condo, sometimes on my boat, sometimes on a dock on the Intracoastal Waterway in Georgia. But I get your point. Point two, when Trump talks about terminating babies in the 9th month and even after, whatever the fuck that means, reporters or interviewers must take him to task. When did this happen? Which hospital and state? Which doctor or patients? Give me specifics, fat boy. By the way, Donnie, if you know of this and do not file a report with the authorities, doesn't that make you complicit of infanticide? Just saying. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, they like to say this. This is not true. This is something they pulled out of their ass or exaggerated something. And as I've said before, they don't have much to work with anymore. They have only one strategy, and that is to discount or discredit their opponent. In this case, it would be Kamala Harris. So they're really reaching now. They really don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're grabbing at anything. That's why they want Kamala to sit down to more in-depth interviews, because what she's saying is too good and they can't tear that apart. They want to find some minuscule little comment or something that they can expand and exaggerate so they have something to work against her. But they're having trouble finding that. So much so that they're reaching to this FEMA thing and the hurricane thing. It's an absolute joke. Anybody who repeats it looks absolutely silly, but that's all they got. All right. Next one says, "Hi, Boomer. That was a good Eric show. He showed up in a mood, I think. I now call Will Hot." One key point you guys spent time on is so important. The reality that a vote for Trump is essentially a vote for J.D. Vance for president. Just look at Trump, for Christ's sake. Even a conservative extrapolation of his mental and physical health doesn't get him through 2 years. I'd love to see a top insurance actuarial guy handicap Trump's survival over the next 4 years. Not to mention his legal issues and upcoming trials. It shouldn't even be accepted as a given that as POTUS, these legal liabilities and obligations disappear. The Dems and the fucking media should be talking about old, change his name 3 times, tell women a pregnancy due to rape is an inconvenience, and a slap on a crisp eyeliner JD fucking Vance as your likely future POTUS if Trump wins. On a separate topic, it's interesting what's going on in Maryland. Read the Senate race. Republican candidate Larry Hogan is running commercials taking an unapologetic pro choice stance. Not a good move, Larry. Now he's somewhat unique because Maryland is solid blue and Hogan has never wavered on being anti Trump. But I think it still confirms what you've been saying about the potency single issue. All right, we soldier on, boom. Best Garage Door Jeff. P.S. Today I'm going to help an elderly woman who I've befriended get registered so that she can get out to vote. She's 86, and in her words, I hate that fucking Trump. I think I can say that me doing this is what I now call the old soul effect. Yeah, I think old soul rubs off on a lot of people. She's out there helping folks all the time, sticking her nose into things that maybe she shouldn't. But that's her. That's the kind of person she is. I can't critique her on it because she's better than me. I can't understand some of the things she does because I'm not as good as she is. There's a lot of people that are not as good as Old Soul, and I think we should appreciate that. She's one of a kind. There is no question about that. All right, the next one says, "Hey Mike, the Harris campaign needs to run a TV commercial showing the despicable Trump telling Bob Woodward that he lied to the country about the severity of COVID, which led to the needless deaths of hundreds of thousands of people." James from New Jersey. That's the thing about Donald Trump. He said so many things, so many lies, so many egregious comments, so many attacks. It's hard to keep track of them. He says one thing and people are appalled, and then he says something else and they forget about the first one. That's kind of a superpower of Donald Trump's. The way he gets out of saying and doing stupid shit is by saying and doing stupider shit. It's, it's truly amazing that our media does not pick up on that. Next one says, "Hey, Boomer, just wanted to weigh in when you and Eric were talking about Jon Tester, our, believe it or not, Democratic senator in Montana. He came from a rural farming area in Montana, Big Sandy to be exact. He buys tractor parts from my son, who works at an implement dealer. In other words, he walks the walk with hard work. His opponent is Tim Sheehy, which he was nicknamed in ads as Sheehy, which stuck in a lot of people's minds. Tim Sheehy brags about donating a bunch of money for a children's hospital in Bozeman, Montana, where all billionaires live so the rich kids don't get sick. I've been saying, why not places like Great Falls or is it Havre, Montana, where people without billions can have healthy kids too, but then the common people might have too much. Jon Tester leans to the conservative side, which would be expected coming from rural Montana, which is fine by me because he represents the people that he works for. I truly believe he wants the best for all Montana and not just the rich ones. He's been a senator for Montana since 2006, 3 terms. I would be surprised if he lost, but then again, there is a cult following of Trumplafucks. Go blue, love all who listen. I think Shady Sheehy watched Yellowstone and thought it was the way of Montana. Darren. Yeah. People had talked a lot about Tester losing this one. And then when I saw bits and pieces of the debate, I go, how the fuck is this Sheehy going to win? He's a stuffed shirt. He's an elitist. He's not even from Montana. I think he's from my own home state of Minnesota. Don't know the fuck. And if I did, I'd tell him what I think. But I think Tester's doing better in Montana. I know people are worried about it because Montana is a Republican state and John Tester is a Democrat. But John Tester is an incumbent, and that gives him an advantage in anybody's book. So I think Tester will win. I think it's important that he does win. I think the name Shady Sheehy is very apropos. The guy does look a little slimy, a little grimy, and I certainly wouldn't want to see him become a U.S. Senator. He'd be along the lines of a J.D. Vance, somebody who's been privileged, somebody who has money, somebody who's connected, and will do nothing but enrich himself when he becomes senator. All right. The next one says, "Hi, Mike. I was on TikTok live with you Tuesday night. I was defending you to a Trumper and you blocked me. I'm a huge fan and diehard Democrat. Please unblock me. You give me so much hope in this election coming up. I'm under fire wife. I'm so sorry that you thought I was attacking you. I definitely wasn't. Sincerely, fire wife on TikTok." I don't know that I blocked you. You got to understand we have some moderators too, and when things get a little crazy, um, um, people can get blocked accidentally. I'll take a look at it, and if you are blocked, I will unblock you. I promise you, I will do that. By the way, I after I got this email and I happened to read it ahead of time, I checked out her TikTok channel. Very good, very entertaining, lovely woman. If you get the chance, I'm talking about the listeners in the audience, to check out Firewife on TikTok. It's one word, FIREWIFE on TikTok. I think you'll find it entertaining. It's very interesting. She's an entertaining woman. And if you got blocked, I'm sorry. If you did get blocked, I will definitely unblock you as soon as I get done with this podcast. All right, next up. Great live. Please remind everyone who is using mail instead to pay strict attention to dates and signatures. So important. The enemy is doing everything to flag and deep six ballots if anything is remotely questionable. Peace, brother. Jay Stephen. Well, Jay Stephen, thank you very much. And you're absolutely right about that. They're taking every advantage they can to dump votes. Now, my question is, do they know if it's Democrat or Republican when they do this? Are they cherry picking Democratic votes, or are they just dumping all of them? Because if they're dumping all of them, they're likely to be dumping Republicans too, because when it comes to mistakes and stupid mistakes at that, that's more a Republican trait than it is a Democratic trait. I don't know, just saying. All right, the next one says, "Hey, Boomer, I just got done listening to the TikTok live on Wednesday. I have to say, you were killing me. I know you hate having the Trumpers on the show up on the live, but it sure was entertaining. The comments before the blocks were cracking me up. Love the show. I listen every day, and thanks for doing it. Have a great day, Don from Illinois." Yeah, I was in a bit of a mood at that point. We had the moderators working on the Trumplafucks, but I happened to come across a lot of them. And I tend to say shit now and again, as you might note. I'm just tired of these people. They come back with trying to trick me with what they think is clever, which is ridiculous and hacky and stupid. I almost take an insult to them coming to me. Like one guy says, "My brother's listening. My brother's listening. Could you give him a shout out? His name is Mike Hunt." And I specifically enunciated that. That's from an old fucking movie, a shitty movie at that. It's a play on words. Think about it and you'll get it. This guy thought he was going to catch me on that. Jesus Christ. What an insult. I know you're stupid, but don't assume I'm stupid too. All right. Next one comes from Max. "Boomer, I'm fairly certain that you know by now that the original reports were saying that Trump sent Putin COVID test to Putin in March of 2020. However, it was later reported that, in fact, that Trump sent Putin COVID testing machines to Putin, and as a result, an unknown number of American citizens died because we didn't have enough machines for our use and American taxpayers paid for them. Max. Yeah, absolutely. You are right. And actually, Old Soul yesterday on the show informed me more about that topic. And you're absolutely right. Thanks to Old Soul and thanks to Max for clarifying that. That's absolutely important. It just shows how much more egregious Donald Trump is. He's willing to risk lives to do a solid for his buddy Vladimir Putin. That fucking annoys me. It should annoy you. Crazy thing about it is that this is one of so many things. You can call them out, and then there's something else, and then there's something else, and it's just fucked up. Um, all right, the next one starts out. Seriously, Mike, this guy is a bona fide piece of shit. It amazes me, no matter how ridiculous the lie, his idiotic sheep will just blindly follow. I mean, do any of them even pay attention to what he says at his rallies? Hell, you can't even call them rallies, they're small gatherings. It's bad enough all of Springfield shit and saying Kamala's 60 Minutes talk was spliced and diced, but calling them out for keeping FEMA away from the relief project is way too far. What the fuck am I saying? It's all way too far. Now, we have the release of the Woodward book, and it still doesn't matter. He's playing with people's lives, and these fucking shit for brain morons don't care. I never thought I would witness anything like this here. Did you ever see Idiocracy? Oh, yes, I saw Idiocracy, and I'm reminded every day when Donald Trump opens his mouth. I honestly thought it was far fetched dark comedy, but now I'm living it. I can't wait for the diapered one to be responsible for cleaning up his own shit stains. I just pray it happens while he's still lucid enough to understand what's going on. Unfortunately, the clock is ticking very quickly on that. I honestly thought he believed his own fucking lies, but there's no way he doesn't understand right now that he's lying through his teeth. I'm so sick of this guy. Thank you for trying to keep all of us sane, but I'm having a hard time understanding how incredibly obtuse a very large part of the population is. Take care, Billy Paul. Well, I'm with you. I've said it before, I'll say it again. One of the most disconcerting things I realized when Donald Trump became president is that we have a far bigger faction of stupid people in this country, gullible people, than I ever imagined. You know, I've said before that, you know, Donald Trump's base is like 25, 30%, and that's not enough to win elections, certainly. But it's fucking crazy to think maybe as many as a third of this country are fucking stupid and are gullible and are at risk to joining a cult because that's what they've done. It is disappointing to say the least. I don't know that there's more stupid people than there was before Trump, but I think that they've just felt emboldened to come out and open their mouths because they end up looking in their minds strong patriots because they back Donald Trump. When it becomes an embarrassment, when Donald Trump becomes a pariah, which is coming soon, 25, 26 days, something like that, when he loses, these people are going to be standing there going, what the fuck? What do we do now? Well, the only thing left for them to do at that point is go back from whence they came, and that is back under their rocks with their mouths shut and trying to duck any shots from normal people. They won't have the power. They won't have the support. They won't have Donald Trump anymore to continue this bullshit. So I'm looking forward to that day. Hopefully, it's coming immediately after the election because even 26 days is too long to wait for dumb fuckers to shut up. All right, the next one says, hello, Mike. I haven't written in a while. I've been confident, like you have all along, that Trump is unelectable. Biden would have beaten him, and Harris will even more so. But I'm looking ahead. When was the last time we had a Democrat step into the presidency with a strong economy to start with? Obama got a recession from Bush, and Biden inherited an inevitable dumpster fire shitstorm from Trump. Kamala will be starting out with a solid, strong economy, and she's got a plan to help the working class Americans. I'm more helpful for the future than I've been in a while. Thanks for helping us remain positive. Scott in Redneck County, Pennsylvania. Well, thank you, Scott. Well, I know what you're saying. Every time we come out of a Republican presidency and the Democrats take over, they have to dig themselves out of a hole. However, when Obama was president in his first term and then he got reelected, he was able to carry on with the progress he was making in the first term. Um, this is going to be a great head start for Kamala Harris. She's going into the next administration with a strong economy, a strong stock market, inflation coming down. We would be farther along if not for the Republicans obstructing as much as they do. And if we can get Kamala in and get the House um, controlled by the Democrats and the Senate controlled by the Democrats, we're going to see a lot of things happen and a lot of things improving. And I think that is the death knell to the Republicans. They've got two problems coming into 2028. Kamala will be the incumbent. She will be successful, and she is going to be virtually impossible to beat, especially after this ridiculous shit show they're putting on for 2024. Plus, if she's doing things with Congress that are benefiting the people of this country, they're not going to want to get rid of that. They're not going to listen to shit from the Republicans. And beyond that, by 2028, the vast majority of the voters are going to be millennials and Gen Zs. And the vast majority of them don't vote Democrat. See, this is the end of the Republican Party. They know it. That's why they're fighting so hard and so furiously, because they know if they don't grab something now, they will never get it back. And good riddance to them. Tired of their bullshit. I'm tired of people continuing to tell us that give the rich people money and it'll trickle down. Hasn't trickled down in 45 years. How long do we have to take before we learn a lesson? This just goes to the Republicans again. They know something's wrong, like their claims about FEMA and the Biden administration. And they knew what the truth was trickle down, but they know it benefits them. So they continue to lie, and they lie profusely. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous. All right. Hello, Mike. Over the road, Russell here checking in with you from the road. Today it's Georgetown, Kentucky. Hope you're doing well and staying safe in Georgia. Back in Minnesota now. Milton looks like it's going to be a beast. It was a beast. I think in some ways it caused a lot of damage. Let's not diminish that. But I think in some ways it ended up better than they thought. But it was still horrific. Make no mistake about that. He goes on to say, I wanted to comment on Trump's farcical transformation from the anti-politician to the ultimate slimy politician. Do you remember when he first began his campaign to rule the world back in 2015? He ran as an outsider. He was not a politician, and that is what lured so many seemingly normal Americans into his cult. But now he's exactly what his dim-witted followers said they hated. He promised them a new house, 2 new cars in the garage, no taxes. Tariffs will pay for everything, LOL. He promises whatever he thinks voters want in return for their vote, just like a politician. I'm wondering why the MAGA cultists haven't noticed his transformation into what they said they hated. I guess it's like a cult thing. Anyway, thanks for keeping us all sane during these difficult times. You really do keep many of us in a positive place with your firm confidence in the demise of Trump and MAGA. It can't come soon enough. Be safe. Over the road, Russell. Thank you, Russell. You remember there was something Donald Trump said yesterday that he's trying to lure people in with. And what he was saying was, when I'm president, I will make all interest paid on car loans deductible. Well, that's an interesting and new idea, isn't it? When I start and I came of age, when I started working and paying my own bills, you know what? You could write off your house, the interest. You could write off your car loans, the interest. You could write off your credit card interest too. But then all of a sudden that stopped. And you know who stopped that? Fucking Republicans. So Donnie, you may want to look at the Republican playbook because they aren't going to allow you to do that if Republicans have any kind of control at all. No tax on tips. Okay. And then anybody in and their mother can claim, oh, this isn't income, this is tips. You know, rich people are just looking for another loophole, and that's what you're going to give them when you do this bullshit. Nobody should listen to Donald Trump. He's a dumb motherfucker. He's never dealt with his own taxes. He's always had somebody doing them, and he just told them to cheat and how to cheat. This guy has no connection to the real people of this country. He's an absolute joke. All right. We are going to take a quick break and we will be right back. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. We're going through some emails. We've got one more, and I just want to mention one thing. We had an email earlier from a woman by the name of, well, she didn't give her name, but she gave her TikTok handle, and it was Firewife. And she was under the impression that during the live, I blocked her. And I checked out on my TikTok and I went to her page, assuming I went to the right page. It said Firewife. That you're not blocked. I haven't blocked you. You're fine. Now, what could have happened is that one of the moderators may have muted you. I don't mute people. I just block Trumplafucks. I don't want them anywhere near the page because they're a risk to the platform. But you may have been muted because somebody maybe misconstrued what you said. But I will tell you this, Firewife, and I will tell this to everybody else. This isn't a rule, but we tell people a lot during the lives. The Trumplafucks will come in and say crazy shit. And I know inevitably there are some people like Firewife that will, want to protect me. Don't worry about protecting me. I can handle myself. The best thing to do is not engage with Trumplafucks during a live. This is what they want to do. They can't build their own platform, so they jump on somebody else's platform so they can spew their shit. And they will say shit in order to entice you into an argument. But that's how they win, by giving them a platform to speak and say the things they say and come after you or come after me. The best thing is just to ignore them. Now, somebody said they like the fact that I was blocking people and I ripped them and then blocked them. And that's exactly what I did. It's not that I'm afraid of them. I'd love to have any one of them come on the show and we could sit across the table and I'd be happy to dismantle them in person if they'd like, but they'll never do that. They're gutless pieces of shit. But I did say some things about them and I stand by them. I don't regret any of it, but I always do block them. And it's not because I don't want to hear what they say. Well, I don't want to hear what they say. I just don't want them to have the power to come in and do something to take down the live or my platform. It's just not worth it. They're, like I said to them, and this is one thing that I think bothers them more than anything. After this election, Donald Trump and MAGA and all the politicians that supported Donald Trump, once Donald Trump has his fall, once he crashes, you're all inconsequential. None of you matter anymore. Any voice that you've had will have gone away. You're unimportant. You're stupid, so you should be unimportant and inconsequential. And this is what I think unnerves them the most. All right, the last email. Hi, Boomer. I love your show. I'm Gen X, but my dad introduced it to me and I listen to you every day. Well, thank you. Dads are cool. Grandpas are even fucking cooler. But thanks, Dad. Just a quick question about the shorter TikTok podcast. Not sure if others have this experience, but several of the TikToks cut off at the end. I don't think it's just me, wondering if anyone else has this happen to them. I can hear the full episodes of your regular podcast just fine. Thanks for everything you do, Corrine. Not sure why that would be. I mean, it's a pretty simple process. I take all the TikToks I do, um, I butt them up against each other, and I don't cut anything off. So you'll have anywhere from 3 to 5 or 6 short minute to 3 minute things, and they'll go back to back. For me, for my money, it's not that entertaining, but some people like that, so I'm happy to do it if people are listening for it. I don't know why it would cut off. I don't know. I mean, I haven't heard that before. This isn't something I've heard of. So if there's other folks out there um, that are having a similar problem, just give me a little better explanation so I can kind of understand what's happening and why it's happening. But thank you. Thank you for the heads up. Now, a lot of people, Republicans, media, Democrats, they like to stir some shit up. That's why they have the polls. And some of these fuckheads are saying, oh, the honeymoon's over. Kamala's losing momentum. She's plateauing. And the fact of the matter is, she is not. And even if she was, consider this. Even if Kamala Harris's momentum is easing a little bit, she's up against her opponent is Donald dipshit Trump. And what he has is the exact opposite of momentum. Donald Trump is sinking like a fucking rock in a lake in his campaign. Nothing is working for him. People aren't showing up to rallies. He continues to say stupid shit. He continues to get called out for it. He continues to show us just how gutless that piece of shit is. But the fact of the matter is, even if you think Kamala's momentum is starting to slow up, I mean, we're less than a month away from the election. We'll be fine. But just in case you were worried about that, she had something happen yesterday that will pick up the momentum again. You see, Barack Obama, former President Barack Obama, turns out he's the most popular former president that is currently alive. We're talking Bush, we're talking Trump, he's the most popular one. And he's out there at the rallies giving pretty great speeches. Barack Obama did a great job of stipulating all the things that Kamala Harris wants to do, her plans, her strategies, her policies. But he also took some time to rip the shit out of Donald Trump. And this will absolutely bug Donald Trump to no end. And I think it's good. But Barack Obama was in Pittsburgh stumping for Kamala Harris. Polls in key swing states such as Pennsylvania remain tight. And that bothers me because I think that's bullshit. There's no way they can be tight unless they're being manipulated. And since we don't know who owns the polls, that's certainly possible. And since we know the polls were wrong in 2022, in 2020, and 2016, and 2018, why should we believe them now? The Harris campaign is hoping Obama can help turn out votes in the state she needs to win to vault into the White House. Now, as I said, Obama is hugely popular all across the country. He's hugely respected, unlike Donald Trump. But Obama's even more popular than Joe Biden at this point, and that's saying something. So to have him out on the campaign trail for Kamala Harris is a big deal. And he did a hell of a job. And he's not just doing it once. He did it in Pennsylvania because Pennsylvania is an important state in the election, maybe the most important state in the election. But he's going to hit some of the other swing states too. So Barack Obama is revving things up a little bit for Kamala Harris. And if there was any concern about momentum, I guarantee you Barack Obama will kick it into high gear. Now, during his remarks, Obama touted Harris's proposal to give parents of newborns a $6,000 child tax credit. The amount goes well beyond the $3,600 per child credit families received under the American Rescue Plan. So if you're a new parent, you could qualify for a $6,000 tax credit during the first year of your child's life. The former president told the crowd, former Vice President a former president told the crowd, because I don't have to tell a lot of you raising kids is hard. And she wants to make it easier to afford stuff like a crib or a car seat or diapers. Obama then recalled buying diapers for the first time as a new parent and ended up reacting to a joke about Trump. I got to admit, I had this joke going on in my head too. Obama said, I remember buying diapers. I remember the first time I went into the store right after Malia was born. I was like, what? That's how much diapers are? I remember changing diapers. Do you think Donald Trump ever changed diapers? Heckler said, no, no, no chance. And then the heckler said, well, maybe his own. Obama said, I almost said that, but I decided I shouldn't say it. And that was probably good. I guarantee you, Donald Trump doesn't change his own diapers. He has some lackey to do it for him. Now, Obama has made several digs against Donald Trump. More recently, at the Democratic National Convention, he joked about Trump's obsession with crowd size. It's been a constant stream of gripes and grievances that's actually getting worse now that he's afraid of losing to Kamala, he said. There's the childish nicknames, the crazy conspiracy theories, the weird obsession with crowd sizes. As he spoke, Obama held his hands up and moved them closer to one another as if to suggest that Trump's fixation on size is not confined to crowds. Yeah. Now, as much as um, Barack Obama was ripping into Donald Trump and making him look foolish, it wasn't quite as bad as Donald Trump making himself look foolish. I've told you before, let that motherfucker talk because he will ruin himself. Now, Donald Trump trashed Detroit yesterday in comments he made while speaking in Detroit. Yeah, it's going to get so bad out here. It's going to be just like Detroit, your shithole city, Detroit. He didn't say shithole, but that's what he was referring to. And he's so stupid that he thinks he can say that, put down the town he's speaking in, and that will somehow benefit him. Jesus Christ. Read the fucking room. Now, in a rambling, low energy speech that went on for nearly 3 hours at the Detroit Economic Club, Trump complained about Vice President Kamala Harris, including her 60 Minutes interview. We talked about that earlier. He warned that if she's elected, the entire country will end up like Detroit while he's in Detroit. The whole country is going to be like, you want to know the truth, Trump said? It'll be like Detroit. Our whole country will end up being like Detroit if she's your president. You're going to have a mess on your hands. He said this in fucking Detroit. Jesus Christ. He shouldn't say it at all, but not in the same town he's besmirching. For fuck's sake, this guy is a child. He doesn't fucking get it. If I was a Republican, I would be embarrassed every time Donald Trump speaks. Now, earlier this year, of course, Trump also reportedly bashed Milwaukee, where the Republican National Convention was held back in July. He said, Milwaukee, where we're having our convention, is a horrible city, he said at the time. Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan slammed Trump's latest comments and said the city is on an upswing. And it is. Detroit just hosted the largest NFL draft in history. The Tigers are back in the playoffs. The Lions are headed to the Super Bowl. Crime is down and our population is growing. Yeah, you've got a mayor proud of his city, as well he should be. And Donald Trump is talking shit about the town he's in, the town he wants to win. Well, he knows he's not going to win Detroit. There are too many people of color. It's too liberal of a city. It's too big of a city. So he's basically saying to people in Detroit, if you want more of this bullshit that you're living with, vote for Kamala Harris. I have a feeling that some people in Detroit are fairly proud of where they live. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, like her book, The Big Gretch, told Trump to keep Detroit out of your mouth. Detroit is the epitome of grit, defined by winners willing to get their hands dirty to build up their city and create their communities, something Donald Trump could never understand. That's what Whitmer wrote on X. So keep Detroit out of your mouth, and you better believe Detroiters won't forget this in November. State Senator Mallory McMorrow, Democrat, was even more direct in her response to Trump. As a proud elected representative of tens of thousands of Detroiters, fuck this guy. I like her. Don't come back. So Donald Trump holds a rally, hoping to get votes. He gets admonished by the governor, by the mayor of Detroit, and by a representative of the state of Michigan. And she says, don't fucking come back. Fuck this guy. Way to go, Donnie. See, this is what I've said before. Everybody says the polls are tight. Well, he lost to Joe Biden by 7 million votes. Please tell me what he's done since 2020 to gain votes. Everything he's done is to lose votes. So, how in the world can it be so close? I'll tell you, it's not fucking close. I don't care what the polls said. I don't care what MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, any of these, David Axelrod, fuck them all. Because when it's all said and done and Kamala wins big, we all need to take a hard look at where we get our news information, whether it be left side or right side, and say, the fuck is wrong with you guys? All of us peons knew it wasn't going to be like that, but you couldn't grasp it. Either your sources are incredibly bad, or you knew and you're trying to manipulate us. Either way, we can't trust you when we watch your programs. I feel like that's going to be my big argument after the election. You fucks, for 6, 8, 12 months, you told us it was close, and it wasn't close. You either fucked up or you are fucked up, and you're hurting this country and hurting us by doing the things you're doing. They need to address that. They need to be called out on that because it's absolutely ridiculous. They'll just say, well, the polls said this. Yeah, well, you know, the polls are notoriously wrong. So why would you put all your fish in that basket if you know they're wrong? I don't know. All right, now Whoopi Goldberg sure didn't pull any punches when she attacked Donald Trump on Thursday's broadcast of The View. She said, to be fair, Trump started things on Wednesday just by referring to the hosts of The View as degenerates and dumb women on his Truth Social platform. Yeah, he likes to call women dumb. Again, another great selling point for voting for Donald Trump. Haven't you pissed off and and haven't you pissed off women enough by overturning Roe v. Wade? You don't think that's enough? You got to continue. Now, later in the day, he lashed out at Whoopi Goldberg during a rally in Reading, Pennsylvania. Trump was apparently unhappy the show interviewed his opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, earlier this week. As a result, he referred to ABC talk show as that stupid View where you have these dumb people. He then singled out Goldberg to the crowd and said he lamented hiring her for an event because her mouth was so foul. Oh, Donnie, you don't like foul mouths, or is it just foul mouths out of women? Well, Donnie, I'm a man and I have a foul mouth, and I will just reiterate what that representative in Michigan said. Fuck you. You're a fucking idiot. And he goes on to say every word out of her mouth was like the F word on Thursday. Goldberg returned the favor during the opening minutes of the show, first by admitting that, yes, she was filthy, before hitting Trump where it hurts, criticizing his business acumen. I've always been filthy, Goldberg said, and you know that when you hired me. I headlined Babe at your casino, which I might have continued to play had you not run it into the ground. You hired me 4 times. You go to William Morris and get the things because I know you all are going to be looking for it. But talk to William Morris. You hired me 4 times and you didn't know what you were getting. How dumb are you? See, that's the thing. If you sat down with Donald Trump, whether it be Whoopi Goldberg or somebody on Fox News or somebody on MSNBC, if you just called him out to his face, if you just hold his feet to the fire, if you just make him answer questions, these are the kinds of things you will get. Now, had you done this in 2015, MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, OAN, all you motherfuckers, all you pundits, the David Axelrods, who really fucking annoys me. If you'd done that in 2015, you could have saved this country and the people in it a lot of trouble, but you chose not to. And the reason you chose not to is because it was good TV. We'll get good ratings and we'll make all kinds of money because that's all that fucking matters, right? Well, if that's all that matters after this election, things are going to change around. You're losing viewers every day. People on the internet, people like me and other folks, we're gaining an audience every day. That should be a red flag to you. You won't get it. You're these snooty motherfuckers that think you have all the money and all the resources and that you do the best job. Well, as of November 5th, I think we're going to see a perfect illustration that you aren't doing a good job. In fact, you're doing a disservice to this country. Now, as I told you, Donald Trump got a little irritated about the 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris, and he continued doing that into yesterday, now with him demanding the century-old network and all other TV news stations lose their broadcasting license. Wow. Nice, Donnie. What are you going to do? Get to be president and then you're going to ban all free media? That's what he would do. That's what he would probably do. You know what I would love to what I would love to happen is if Donald Trump heard me say the things I say about him and he would say, "We're going to take away your broadcast license." Bitch, I don't have a broadcast license for being on a podcast. FCC doesn't police what's going on in podcast. You can whine and cry all you want, but nobody's ever going to be taking off the air or off a podcast for simply telling the truth. Just because it's inconvenient to you doesn't mean it's not true. And if it's true, that's not defamation. That's not a lie. That's not fake news. That's just the truth. And the real problem here is you have problems with handling the truth. You can't handle the truth. He can't. He has an aversion to the truth. That's why he hates to be fact checked. He said CBS should lose its license and it should be bid out to the highest bidder, as should all other broadcast licensees, because they are just as corrupt as CBS and maybe even worse. The network has just created the greatest fraud in broadcast history. See what I'm saying? It's always the worst or it's always the best with him. It's never a gray area. It's always the worst or always the best. He said that the interview on 60 Minutes was heavily edited, its recent interview with Harris, the Democratic presidential nominee, to make her look more presidential and conceal that she's virtually incoherent. Well, I've done some editing in my life. To take somebody who's incoherent and make them seem presidential, that's virtually impossible to do, as can be proven by any videos we see Donald Trump in. If you were able to video or edit a video to make somebody sound good, you would think they would have done that with Donald Trump, but they haven't, because Donald Trump is not, you're not able to make him look presidential because he's simply not presidential. Now, Trump backed out of the 60-minute interview at the last minute, claimed in a follow-up post that CBS is a threat to democracy. Projection. He faces the same accusations, which is at the center of two of his criminal indictments. He is a risk to democracy. It's conceivable that Trump, who has long had fraught relationships with the press, could act on his threat if he wins back the White House next month. Experts have noted that there's an obscure provision in the 1934 Communications Act allowing presidents to shut down broadcasters in the interest of national emergency or national security. Now, I will say this to you, media outlets. You still want to boost up Donald Trump. You still want to keep this close matchup, knowing that if he became president, there is some crazy provision that would allow him to shut you down. Are you really going to risk that? Pretty fucking stupid if I say so myself. But you know what? You can't shut me down. You can't shut down any of the other podcasters because we aren't policed by the FCC. This is hardly the first time Trump has lashed out at networks by making threats about their broadcasting licenses, which of course are given out by the FCC. Just last month, he called into Fox News saying the FCC ought to take away ABC's license for its handling of the September debate between him and Harris. Jessica Rosenworcel, chairman of the FCC, released a statement dismissing Trump's demands, saying, "The First Amendment is a cornerstone of our democracy. The commission does not revoke licenses on broadcast stations simply because a political candidate disagrees with or dislikes content or coverage." So this Jessica, this chairwoman of the FCC, she must be a radical left Democrat. Trump made the same demands about NBC, CNN earlier this year when they didn't broadcast his full speech after winning Iowa's caucuses and while still president in 2018. I have long criticized NBC and their journalistic standards worse than even CNN. Look at their license. Sorry, Donnie, it's not going to happen. You can rant all you want, but you're like Don Quixote tilting at windmills. His claims about the 60 Minutes interview with Harris appear to stem from two different clips CBS has released of Harris answering the same question about Israel from host Bill Whitaker. One shows her giving a one-sentence response, while another shows her giving her a lengthier answer that includes her response from the shorter clip. You can see the full transcripts here. And that, of course, comes from the article, and I'm not going to read the transcripts. But everything Donald Trump is a fucking reach. Everything is an absolute reach. And it's stupid. And it will not be done. And Donald Trump is just ranting and raving like an old man yelling at a statue. All right, the last thing we're going to talk about is another bad day for Donald Trump. A federal judge overseeing Donald Trump's election interference case denied the former president's request to stop the release of further evidence before the election. You remember the 165 pages that was released by Jack Smith and Judge Chutkan. Well, there's more. And it's coming at a very timely moment because it's coming just before the election. We heard some of the evidence that was in the first 165 pages, but apparently there is more. This is bad news for Donald Trump. He will try to stop it, and they'll give him a slight pause so he can make his argument. And then Judge Chutkan will say, "Fuck you. You're stupid. There is no basis for me to stop this. It's coming out." And then he's going to have to spin around like a fucking wild man trying to spin whatever comes out, which he won't be able to do because it will be pretty fucking clear, pretty evident, and pretty egregious. Now, the decision Thursday afternoon by U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan finds that making public Special Counsel Jack Smith's latest redacted filing is appropriate and that Trump's blanket objections to further unsealing it are without merit. Without merit. As in his previous filing, he identifies no specific substantive objections to particular proposed redactions. See, that's if you're going to make a claim against something like this, you have to have a reason for it. You have to have some case law that says this is why we shouldn't let it out. But he has none. He just says, I want you to do this because I want you to do this. And when you're in court as much as Donald Trump, you would think he'd realize this, but that's not enough. You gotta have some reason for it, not just because you don't want it. And this is foreign to Donald Trump because Donald Trump has always been used to getting his way from the time he was a child to when he was in school to when he was in college, when he was in business. Everybody just bent over backwards. But Donald Trump's running up against a brick wall now because he's in a bigger a bigger coliseum now. He's not bigger than the U.S. government. He's not bigger than the judicial system. He's been fairly successful at manipulating it and delaying things. But make no mistake, if the government wants to get you, they're gonna fucking get you, guaranteed. Now, Trump had attempted to keep any further evidence against him in his criminal case out of the view of voters until November 5th. That's adorable. He thinks if I can just keep this evidence out, I'll win the election in November and then I'll just wipe everything away. Sorry, Donnie, that's not the way it's going to go. You are going to lose, and you are going to lose fucking big. No question about it. You can believe what you want to believe, but November 5th is going to be a big wake up call for you, for MAGA, for all Republicans. When you wake up on November 6th, you will see the Republican Party burning to the fucking ground, and you all deserve it. Lindsey Graham said that at one point. If we elect Donald Trump, we will destroy the Republican Party. Now, he's changed his stance since then, of course, but that's exactly what is happening currently. It's burning, and no one's showing up to put it out. Donald Trump is just pouring gas on the flames. All right, we are going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.